Hi, my name is Lauren Army from 2000 Olympics, and today I have Angelica Delgado with me, who I've known for ever.
Yeah.
So weird. I was telling Neff, like, I still see you guys as little, I mean, we're only like 6 years apart, but I still see you guys as kids sometimes. But then I see everything that you've accomplished. Like, you're such beasts. I can't believe everything that you've done in your life, but I don't want to spoil the introduction. So just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, and your accomplishments on and off the mat.
I'm Angelica Delgado. I'm a three-time Olympian in the under 52 kilogram weight category for judo, obviously. I competed at the 2016 Olympics in Rio, the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo, and 2024 in Paris last year.
And you had
And then
Grand Prix finishes and stuff too, right?
yeah, I mean, I have four Grand Slam medals. I don't know how many Grand Prix medals. I think it's around the same, like three or four Grand Prix medals, or two or three.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was top nine in the world at one point in my weight class, and I am six-time national champion.
Dude, I remember your dad bringing you to Budokan when you were young, like 10, 11, 12. And I remember seeing that hunger in your eyes. And I was like, okay, here's another one coming.
No, I think I think it was mostly my dad pushing me at that point, but it was definitely more him. Because I remember meeting you when you got back from the Olympics after Sydney, right? And you like signed my belt, and I was like an orange belt and stuff.
Weird.
I think I
So
still,
weird.
yeah, I think I still have that belt somewhere here. But yeah, I still remember that. And but he was like the one, I was like, what, maybe 10, 11 years old. And he was the one that was mostly pushing me, driving me everywhere around Miami. So,
Yeah. But thank God for that, right? I mean, like you obviously are a really accomplished human being. Um, I don't know, I can't say enough. I see you guys, I'm just like the transformation that you've made over the years as a human being, it's just amazing. It's amazing to see your like generation and I don't know, you guys have created this leadership. I see it within your group, like you and well, Hannah, like she went off to Jimmy's, but I mean like all of
mm.
you guys, I'm just not that we've spoken a lot, but I just see it. I'm so proud of those girls. I'm just absolutely so proud of everything that you guys have accomplished and your camaraderie and how you stick together. But focusing on that, like, what do you think the importance, like the level of importance is as far as documenting the history of women's judo here in the States and obviously internationally as well?
I think it's so important to document, I'm sorry, the history of judo for women, especially for the generations that are coming up. I don't think right now we're kind of in this lull, where I don't think maybe female judo in the United States is as competitive as it was when I was growing up, for example. Like you mentioned Hannah, for example, Hannah Carmichael. I don't know, you didn't mention Marty yet, but Marty Malloy, Kayla Harrison, these were all my contemporaries. Kayla and I are the same age. And I remember making my first infantile Pan American team with her, and we kind of just grew up together, and I had a ton of girls. I remember going to Budokan, and there was a ton of women doing judo back then, and then obviously moving to Kitsusai, and then just like the entire judo community in South Florida and Miami, that there was so many women doing judo back then. And I look
Yeah.
now, and there's a few coming up, but there's been a huge gap because I'm relatively I mean, I just competed last year at the Olympics, but I'm relatively old for the sport. I'm 34. I'm going to be 35 this year. And
How's
yeah,
your body feel, dude? I was gonna
it's
ask you that later, but like, what is it like competing at this age? I mean, like, I won't even do random anymore because like everything hurts too much. Go with the little kids.
yeah, that I mean, that's the only thing I want to do. Like I don't want to I'm it's been a little tough for me because I just got done being like in the best shape of my life, and then I got pregnant, and it's been kind of like a shock to the body a little bit. I have this like need or want to do randori and to train and stuff. My body thankfully has held up through all these years. You know, thank God. Knock on wood, everything. I haven't had any major surgeries or anything like that. So, and being a weight cutter too, which is a huge aspect of being a lightweight, being 52 kilograms from the time I was 19 up until last year. So it's a lot. It's a lot on the body to, especially with the qualification system that it is what it is today, and you have to compete at least 10 to 12 to 15 times a year if you're trying to qualify directly for an Olympic Games. It's just rough. It is, and making weight consistently and being consistent on the IJF circuit, it's a lot. And I'm very thankful that my body didn't give up on me, you know. But yeah, no, my body's good. I still have that like
Your
I
mind
want.
doesn't match your body, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
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 I was
It's
doing judo here and there
tough.
recreationally, but I took a long break and I like was like, okay, I started getting in better shape and I started doing randori again and my mind was like, push yourself, push yourself. And
Yeah,
the next
exactly.
day I literally was on the couch like, oh my God, I can't move.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. Like I'll get into it, you know, but it's like the next morning or the next day when like I can't move my neck and I have to do this in order to talk to people and stuff. So that's the hard part is like the recovery aspect. I used to get banged up or like an ankle sprain or something and I'll be like, "Oh, I'll be good in a couple days," or I could just run it off and it'll be fine. And like as you start aging, your body's a piece of meat. It has an expiration date. And as you start aging after 30, I feel like it started getting harder and harder to recover from those, long, intense sessions for me.
So jumping back, because like I had a lot of people like Colleen McDonald, Lilico Ox, I can never say her last name, Hillary Wolf. I had a lot of females that, what did that do for you growing up having females to look up to? Did it provide that motivation for you that you're hoping the next generation will be able to look to you guys for?
Of course. I mean, like I said before, having you, somebody from, South Florida, somebody that I could see and touch and see them training. And, we had in South Florida, we had like Orlando Fuentes and stuff, but those are male athletes. But having somebody that you can kind of
Okay.
emulate or look up to. And I distinctly remember my dad actually clipped an article, a newspaper article that you did. I don't remember if it was like the Miami Herald or something like that. And it was like, oh, you train a lifetime for one moment and then you lose, and it's really tough. And that always stuck with me, and like just those perspectives of like what it was going to take in order to get to the highest level. You really need, uh, you know, other strong women, to kind of look and see like how are they training, what are they doing in order to get to that point, in order to get, because in my mind, I would watch those like 101 Ippon videos with my dad and all that stuff, and even the music to this day still gives me chills
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, like kids today will never know what like one of those VHS tapes is like or anything.
Yeah. How
But
patient you have to be to press that rewind button, dude, and go
rewind
back and
it.
watch it.
Exactly. But seeing you and seeing other women, well, like when I actually started competing, not just locally but nationally, and Rhonda was a couple years older than me, but still around the same age, and I was like, oh wow, she's doing it on a big stage. And the person, I was 57 kilos when I was juniors, and the person that I always thought, oh, the person in my division that's number one in the U.S. and is competing internationally and doing well and is an Olympian also is Valerie Gotai.
Mhm.
And she's someone also that I got to train with when I was 15, 16 years old. So I always, looked to who was the person in my weight class that I could um, emulate, that I could, kind of model my life, and if it was someone next to me, that was even better because I could see how they moved day to day, how they trained, what they ate, all that.
I know you mentioned Orly before, and I know this is mostly about, I'm trying to make an encyclopedia for the younger
Hmm.
guys so they can go and be like, if they need some inspiration, listen to you or listen to some of the old school like historical figures, like Eve. Um, but Orly and I used to coach Hana, and I love coaching with him because Hana used to wear her emotions on her face,
She still
and she,
does.
and she used to get an attitude, and we'd be in the middle of coaching, and we'd be like, "Fix your face!" Oh my God, like we would get so frustrated with her. But I
She still
remember
does.
that coach was just,
Nothing
yeah,
has changed
yeah.
in that regard. She used to get when we started fighting a lot because I was 57 and she was 57 when we were juniors, and we ended up fighting a ton for like junior world spots and all that, up until I graduated high school. And she was also from South Florida. And I remember Orly would tell her like fix your face and all that all the time. And like one day, when we started to become friends, she told me, she's like, you don't give like an inch like in your face or anything. And I'm like, Hannah, because you like take all the emotion. Like you could tell when you're frustrated, you could tell when you're excited, you could tell when you're happy. Like, you could tell immediately in your face, like when we're fighting, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like stay
Yeah.
cool and like not
You
give any.
always were that way though. Even when you were a kid, you were always very stoic. Like when you were fighting, and I was like, I have
I
no idea what
guess.
this kid's thinking. So maybe that's why I thought you were hungry because I was like, I don't know.
It was probably just
Um,
I was very nervous. I was very nervous as a kid competing, so it was probably just me just like not trying to like throw up or something. So
yeah. So now, like, do you see, because Skylar Cummings said that she sees a lot more equity, and I know when I was growing up, it was like there could be somebody that wasn't even on the Olympics that was getting seminars left and right, and it was a little bit harder for kind of females to go into that leadership role. Do you feel like things have evened out from my generation to yours?
I mean, I feel like they have. I'll give you a great example. Just last week, I went to, I don't know. I mean, you should know probably Kristen Ellie Dreesy and Ala Ellie Dreesy. They live in Philadelphia, and they had invited me out for a clinic, and I had told them, I was like, listen, guys, I'd love to, but I am pregnant. I don't know if that's gonna deter you or bother you guys, or if you want to maybe do it at a later date or next year. And they're like, we don't care. If you're comfortable, we're comfortable. And I think, that's amazing. you know, um, that they didn't kind of put a limitation on me. They still wanted to have me, and I had a, fantastic clinic. But just that, I think like mental change, attitude change, where they don't see um, women as lesser than or weak, and we can still do, for me, judo's like breathing at this point. Like I've done it for so long. And yeah, that, I mean, as long as I'm healthy and everything was okay. And they didn't even think about it. And I've gotten a lot of, clinics that way and stuff. Like they don't really care, if I'm, pregnant or not pregnant or whatever, and they really value my insight and value my experience. That's been,
That's
I
beautiful.
think yeah, I think that's been my experience so far. Before, it's mostly with people that are not in the judo community that, oh, they don't want like their son or something being taught by a woman and stuff. But it's usually people that they haven't grown up within our community or have never done a sport or judo itself in their lives. Because I think judo is very unique in the fact that female, like competitive judo, elite level judo, for women is in most weight classes just as competitive as the male side. In any given tournament, I had 40, 50 girls competing in one day in 52 kilograms or 57 kilograms, some of those more contested weight classes. And that's very rare to see, as I started competing in different Olympic Games or Pan American Games. And I saw other sports like wrestling, other combat sports, wrestling, boxing, taekwondo, and some of the female divisions, they had huge discrepancies. They had maybe 8 competitors, 6 competitors, and I was like, oh, this is not the case in judo. So I think a lot of people see that. They see, that women now are super athletic. They're strong, they're fast, they have like beautiful technique. Um, everybody, you know, their technique varies. So just by, I think they, just by it being so competitive and like someone that can make it to the high level, they do give a lot of respect for that competitor. So that's been mostly my experience. And I think judo itself, since there's like that level of respect, you know, in the dojo and even out of the dojo, um, I've always, you know, been given, I guess, the respect that I feel like I deserve. So I do believe that in the past 20 years or so, 15, 20 years, there's been a shift.
That makes me happy. That makes me super happy.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot, well, for me, like I had 6 concussions by the time I went to the Olympics. I had 2 surgeries, and my teammates were kind of like, me go to college and be a human being
Yeah.
for a little while, but I still lack that like sense of peace, that judo gives me. So I'm happy that they guided me to kind of chase my career goals. Um, but at the same time, you sit back and just watch this evolution. And so for you to confirm that, it's just really, really nice to hear. But with that, like as females, because for me, the most it would be so wonderful to kind of gather up as many troops as possible. Like people from like Anne Maria and Eve and Lynn and all of those generations. Like if we could get every female in one room, for me, that would be ideal. But where do we start? Like in your mind, how do female judokas support each other to kind of create a stronger domain and a stronger presence within the sport?
Um, since I'm still coming off, like my mind is still so, it's so ingrained in my mind to think about competition and coaching and how to get to that elite level and be the best, like compete with teams like France, like Japan, you know, that are some of the best teams in the world. I immediately, my mind goes to having more female coaches, more female representatives within that top, that like elite level, the people that are traveling the most. And I think if we can get more voices and more representation in those rooms and making those decisions and being coaches as well for a lot of our female athletes, I think that's a huge step because that's, you know, the top of the top. So I think um just having more representatives, more people that are, you know, speaking up for us, vying for us athletes. Because my mind still goes there. So I think, you know, it would be great to have at least like one female coach or somebody that has been there, you know, somebody that knows how to weight cut properly, nutrition wise, what it's like to cut weight or go to a tournament in Azerbaijan and you're on your period and they don't have the same you know, tampons or pads or just little things, little nuances that make you more comfortable. Especially when you're on the road and like I said, you need to compete 10 to 12 to 15 times a year, and just having somebody there that, you know, knows what you're going through, I
Yeah.
think is super important.
No, I agree, especially with the weight cutting aspect, because I was always so jealous of the men. They take like, oh, I'll be fine. I have 15 pounds left. And you're like, I can't lose these last two,
Yeah,
especially when
exactly.
your body changes. It's
Or
it's a lot.
somebody that can even sit in a sauna with you.
Hmm.
Or, you know, like if it's I think I lost you for a second.
Oh,
Oh,
I see you.
hello. Yeah. Even like I said, it's sitting in a sauna with you, if it's someone that can, you know, kind of like just have that, it's for me at least, like those last, that last pound, those last 2 pounds, when you need like kind of that support, like, oh, you can do it, you know, I've been there before, like you got this, and just someone to be there. You
Yeah,
know.
I agree. When I went to Fukuoka, the Fukuoka Cup, when I was like 16, and I was on my menstrual cycle, and I could not lose those last 2 pounds. And I remember I was putting the steam in the shower. I couldn't do anything. And it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and Amaria Sohon was out running, and I saw her, and I was like, and we were talking, and her and I were just running up and down the streets of Tokyo. So, to have that, like, she kicked my ass every time we fought, but just to have her there for my sanity made a world. I didn't even care at that point because I had to fight in 2 hours, the next day. But or a couple hours, but just to have her there, that was enough for me to have that leadership, and say like, okay, I can do it. I can get these last 2 pounds. It was really empowering. But speaking of which, what did judo provide to you in regards to your sense of empowerment?
Man, judo, like I said, is like breathing for me. At this point, for me, it's that sense of confidence that I've been able to get over all these hurdles in my life. Um, Not making a team, not like failing so much, and then picking myself right back up and trying it again and then succeeding. Um, at towards the end, well, towards about the last 8 to 10 years of my career, I would take things in stride and I'd say, oh, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I know I'll get there eventually. And that's something that I've taken with me through my life. There's so many like good life lessons that sports in general gives you, but judo itself, since we're so undervalued in the US and most people don't know what judo is. I mean, a little bit more now because of BJJ and MMA and people that are, casual fans and stuff. But for the most part, growing up, people had no idea what judo was.
Yeah,
So those important life lessons, I always make this like analogy. The first thing you learn in judo is how to break fall, how to take falls. As a kid, you learn over and over and over again how to take falls. It teaches you how to tuck your chin and not hurt your head and stuff like that. And there's not a single time in practice or in judo that you take a fall and you just lay there on the ground. You always get back up. You always
yeah,
stand back up. So that's for me, that's the most important life lesson that I've taken with me. Like you're just gonna keep on trekking. You're just gonna keep on going. Like there's no stopping. There's no laying on the mat. There's no laying on the tatami. Like you're just gonna pick yourself back up and keep on going. So
yeah. I know you mentioned like past people, but were there anybody from like 92 or 96 when you first started judo? Was there anybody that was like your ultimate like historical female? Because I want to, like Neth mentioned you and Hannah. And I think that's really important to like include all the generations. Was there anybody else in the past that you looked up to?
so for me, from like the night from 96 and stuff, obviously, I mean, I'm not gonna say female, but Jimmy was also someone that Mike Swain, Jimmy, Jason, but Jimmy and Mike, since I had met them, I think I met them in like a junior US Open or something like that, and like they left like a lasting impression. But meeting you, knowing you, seeing you was something that I could see, and I was like, oh, this is more attainable than I thought. It's not just like on a VHS tape. It's like someone that I know and that kind of grew up in the same environment, you know, at least
Yeah,
similar environment than I did. Um, but I really didn't learn about because since I only watched like these VHS tapes and I didn't start competing nationally until I was about 13, 14 years old, I really didn't know about a lot of other, you know, female competitors or female Olympians. So that was kind of tough for me. I only really knew about the men and obviously doing judo with my father, um, who is also, he would obviously look at the men, but I would look towards more like international female athletes like Ryoko Tamura and
yeah.
like you said, Amarilis.
Amaris.
For some reason, I thought I was gonna be 48 kilos, but that was definitely no. There was no way I was gonna be 105 pounds ever.
Amaris could barely make 48. She was always
I
like,
know, huge,
she
yeah,
looked like
huge.
Kayla at her MMA
I know.
weigh-in. She's like, oof, I don't know how she did it, but she still was brutally strong.
Yeah.
I fought her at Pan Am's. I had a broken hand at the time, and I remember just like holding on. I mean, like, oh shit, here comes. She was such a beast. And there's a couple times I would watch her matches, and I mean, Tamura got a lot of credit, but people don't realize like they were they were there. Like she was as great as, in my opinion, she was as great as Tamura, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then moving up a weight class and also being like top two in the world and being, it's just, yeah, obviously being Cuban, both my parents are Cuban, being Cuban,
Yeah.
we looked towards a lot of the, at the time, the female Cuban judo team was one of the best in the world, so for me looking at them also and like, oh wow, like look at all these women doing these incredible things, and they were lifting weights and getting strong at levels at that time that other women, like, they were just crazy strong, crazy athletic, and I was like, wow, like look at all these women doing these incredible things. And
And
then
they were good
later on.
people. And they were
Huh?
good people. And they were good people. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they looked out for me because Aurelio was always like, like I consider myself an honorary Cuban. And a lot of times, like I have people that I'll speak to in Spanish and I'll say certain phrases and they're like, oh, like you're so rude. And I don't realize like as a gringa, like I'm like there's certain phrases that don't necessarily translate, but I looked up to them myself. Avelli would tell them to watch out for me. So when we would go on the European tour and stuff like that, and if I would get picked on and battered by somebody that was older, Amarillas would come over and be like, está bien. And then she would go with the girl that was absolutely demolishing me and demolish her for me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a little different once you start like obviously competing with them and stuff like that, and they're kind of like your, I don't want to say nemesis, but for a long time I had that like rivalry with Yanette Bermoy,
mhm.
and but we were always friendly afterwards and stuff. Once you sometimes, especially now with how qualification is for the Olympics, you see these people more than you see your family, so you end up having these great relationships also. So, but back to your question, I would watch all these women, and then Daniesca Carrion, she came to the US when I was about 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and I was still, I think I was kind of teetering between judo clubs. But I remember her telling me one time something that also always stuck with me, because I would tell her like, "Oh, how do you get over nerves and like competition nerves?" And she said, "Oh, I just look at the girl in front of me, and she has two eyes, two arms, two hands, 2 feet, just like I do. So why wouldn't I win?" And I was like, "That's perfect. Like you just look at it so like matter of fact. It's like what does she have that I don't have? Nothing. So why wouldn't I win?"
That's so cool though. I mean, like all of these positive influences that you've had in your life has built you to be a three-time Olympian, which is, are you the only female to do this?
I have no idea.
I think you might be.
I don't know.
Maybe Salida. I'm trying to remember how many teams.
Probably Selena
Maybe.
Schultz. Yeah.
So pass the buck. Who do you think I should interview? Name a couple people that because I'm trying to create this encyclopedia of females in the U.S. and then I'm going to move on and probably contact Amaris and a couple other people to get the ball rolling for other countries. But
I mean, you mentioned her already, but Hannah Carmichael, because she's my best friend. Um, she's my best friend. We ended
she's
up being,
preggers too.
yeah,
I saw
this is
her
her second.
dad. Yeah, her
This
dad
is her
told me.
second one. Yeah, this is her second one. But she's also dabbling in some coaching. She's helping a few girls, specifically only girls from Colton Brown's judo school in New Jersey. So
Um,
she's been teaching them too, and she's been kind of. I know it might be hard. I think she should be good for another like 2 or 3 weeks, but she's giving birth like at the end of July, I think. So.
tell her I love
Um,
her.
but also, yeah, so do
Love
I.
her.
Those are the types of relationships that you build. We used to like try to rip each other's heads off. Like I remember we would the one of the last like high school nationals that they had at here in Florida was like at FIU, and it's literally like 5 minutes from my house. And Budokan was like on one side and Kitsusai was on another side. And we were like battling it out, and the whole entire tournament stopped for that finals. So, and those are the things that I remember, but now, like, those are the things that bring you closer, because you
Yeah.
had those shared experiences. So we ended up becoming best friends, which is so crazy.
I have a funny
Um,
story about Hannah. So the first, like, she could never throw me, and then I got done with the Olympics, and I was still working with Orly to kind of like, mentor her. and we're practicing, and she caught me with a really sweet, I think it was like a tie or something. And she jumped up and she was almost like in my face, like, I threw you, I threw you. And all I could do was laugh. And I was like so happy for her. I was like, you did. And you did.
You're like, you
Okay.
got me.
Yep. Finally, my work here's done. No, but I don't know. I love that kid. She made me laugh. She brought me so much spirit. Like she kept my passion to coach. She really ignited my passion to coach, to be honest with you, and after school programs. But I didn't really. I was kind of jaded about you know the culture, not necessarily the culture, but like the politics and like
Yeah.
I always, not to be vulgar, but I always say it's like let me say this classy. It's like a sword fight from a male perspective, and I was so tired of it. I just wanted to help people through judo, and I think
Yeah.
like your mindset is set in that competition zone, and I think it's really important for all of these tiers to come together to create like the perfect pyramid of influence that we can have on other people's lives through the sport. So, I mean, I'm really happy to talk to you. I just like sit back and see how accomplished you guys are and what kind of leaders you've become. And it makes me want to cry because I was away from judo, like the community. Like I still did recreationally here and there in the areas that I lived in, but I always miss that sense of peace and that culture. And even though like, you have family and you might have this uncle that's like a complete jerk and like, oh God, Uncle so-and-so's coming to the family meeting. But overall, you still love each and every person for who they are and you take them
Yes.
good and the bad. And
Yeah.
it's
That's
just
what I think, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, no,
But
go.
you're like totally right. Like that
Yeah,
the piece that you keep mentioning for me, judo, like through everything, through heartbreak, through deaths in the family, through everything, has always been my constant. And to not have that, is like such a shock to me mentally.
yeah,
Because I mean, I try to go to practice. I obviously just coach a little bit, and I'm in there in the warehouse just sweating and stuff, just like coaching and like showing some moves and doing some uchi komis and stuff like that. um but it's like that for for 2 hours, you just completely block everything out, the
yeah,
outside world doesn't matter, you're just in there. And I miss that like you said, that mental peace of like just completely zoning into one thing and not thinking about anything else. Like for me, it's like it's better than therapy. Like
yeah,
it's, yeah.
100%. Well, please keep, the one thing I will say that like my generation dropped the ball 100%. Everybody just was like, screw this, we're out of here. And there wasn't enough, like even if you're not competing, you still have to live through that mentorship because all the people that came before you and mentored you created who you are today as a human being. And so like I can't apologize on the behalf of any of my other teammates or anything else like
No,
that. But
please. I mean, I
yeah,
would, there's times that I'm like, I only see it from an athlete's perspective. So I only see like the kids that are trying to make it out, the kids that are trying to compete and trying to be the best that they can. And you're right, there's so many politics and BS and,
yeah,
like that get in the way of that get in the way of, um, you know, people that are really just trying to better the sport. So, another good person that I would recommend talking to, I know she's probably very busy because she's actually working with the LA 2028 program. She's working in Los Angeles with like, she's setting up like basically the entire Los Angeles like social media and all of that, is Marty Malloy. Um, she was, I always call her my senpai because she's someone that I also definitely looked up to. At one point, her, Hannah Martin, and Hannah and I were all in one weight class. And I think that made us all better, and she was at the top of that. She was all, kicking all our butts. So she's definitely someone that I would speak to because she has tried to be on the politics side. She's been on the board for USA Judo. She's on the board for the United States Olympic and Paralympic Endowment Fund, and she's also very involved and she wants to remain involved. So she's also a really good person to talk to.
Okay. Yeah, I will, because I think ideally, like the coolest thing would just at least have like an annual all-female camp. You
Yeah.
know, depending on who hosts it, there's a lot of logistics that are involved, but and I'll make phone calls to all my jaded senpais like anytime, everybody, even if they have to appear on Zoom, or just, I think it's so, so important just listening to all these stories. Without it, without those influences, judo can't thrive. And it for me, it's not even necessarily about popularity, but even if it doesn't like hit popularity media wise, but just kind of spreading it because I see a change in kids, on a daily basis that I work with that it's like, okay, there's something magical and special about this sport. And its message and its meaning and its culture needs to be more prevalent in our country.
Definitely.
Oh
I
man, I'm
understand.
so proud of you. Thank you for talking to me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm
No,
so
thanks,
proud of you
Lauren.
guys. Beyond belief. Please tell Hannah I said fix her face, okay?
When you talk to her, you can tell her off, but I'll hop off now and I'll tell her for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank
Thanks,
you, Angie.
Lauren. Thank you so much.
Talking to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.